Hello and welcome to the MBLEx review course. My name is Jodi. I'm your instructor. I want to say welcome. Welcome to all our peeps who are here. Today we are talking about guidelines to a professional practice. And so we're going to cover some key terms. We're going to cover some vocabulary. We're going to talk about the concept of what is a professional practice. And these are distinguished. This topic today is going to help you whether you are an employee or an entrepreneur or both. Yeah, because these are the guidelines that we as professionals will be implementing once passing the MBLEx. And today's class is in 3 parts. First part is a test-taking strategy. Yes, a test-taking strategy. The second part is going to be our learning. And then in the third part, we're going to go through dissecting some questions. Yes, dissecting some questions. All right, so let's get right to it. My test-taking strategy for you today is to know about the accommodations that are available to you when you're taking the MBLEx. So many of you have already paid the $265. So at the time of this recording, the fee for the MBLEx is $265. When you pay that fee, you get an email 3 to 5 days later that is your authorization to test. That means they have your transcripts, you've been cleared to take the MBLEx. Then you click on the link for Pearson VUE and you set your test-taking date. But what I want to let you know about is that as you are paying your money, there is a space on the application to ask for certain accommodations. This is a room to yourself. You can be in a room by yourself. You can have extra time. I believe the current accommodation is up to 4 hours. And if you qualify, you can have a reader, someone to read you the questions. Now, typically you need to be visually impaired to have a reader. However, those other accommodations are available for you, but you have to request it when you pay the fee. You can't request it from Pearson VUE Testing Center. You've got to apply, and you have to ask when you apply and pay your fee. Okay? So consider that. Now, they will ask you for a doctor's note. Please shake off any feelings of imperfection. But if you want more time on that test, just have your local whoever you go to for your annual physical. If there is if you go to your chiropractor, if you get therapy, if you do talk therapy, they are the folks who can just write the note that says, yes, Jodi qualifies for extra time. Jodi needs extra time to take her exam. No problem. And if you have English as a second language, I would strongly recommend, or if you grew up with 2 languages in your household, I would strongly recommend you consider requesting extra time. Now, I mentioned 2 languages in your household. What's that about? Did you know that Montessori schools have proven with their kids? Now, Montessori schools are the ones where, like, for the gifted and the intelligent kids to go to kindergarten, elementary school, middle school. So they have a very good reputation of producing great education, of offering great education. What they have found is that their students who come in from a bilingual family actually are slower to learn in English. Honestly, I will give you an example. My friend, we'll call him, well, just his name is Trevor. So Trevor, you don't know Trevor, but good rule of thumb is either tell the story or use the name. But in any case, Trevor's little boy went to school 15 years ago. And when he entered Montessori school, both Trevor and his wife were really nervous because he wasn't doing very well. Well, they both spoke Italian, and they would speak Italian to each other. And they had a really heavy accent when they spoke English. And what they found was that, and what the Montessori school teachers explained, was that, hey, your son's not slow. He's just not used to learning in English. And so sometimes when you feel like something's not sticking, it could be because you've got multiple languages. And this isn't just about foreign spoken languages. If you're a program coder, if you can write in Linux, whatever that is, obviously I don't. But when you have other languages in your head, sometimes it takes a minute to understand English. And so just cut yourself some slack. Request the extra time if you feel like you want it. And go ahead and request that note from your mental health professional, from your physical doctor, maybe even a chiropractor. How about that? All right. That is a helpful hint on test-taking strategy to know the accommodations that you are allowed when you apply. So when you pay your fee, this is an accommodation from the Federation. It is not from Pearson VUE. So that happens at the time you're paying your fee. And I hope that that opens up your mind to some opportunities that might be available for you. All right. Ready to do some learning? Here we are. Welcome back. Welcome back to a study session. So stoked that you are studying for the MBLEx. And you know what? You didn't have time for this. No, you didn't just have time in your schedule for this. You made time. So thank you. Today, we're going to be talking about guidelines to a professional practice. It is 15 questions on your MBLEx on average. And between guidelines for a professional practice and ethics, that makes up 31 questions on your MBLEx. Yeah. 1 out of 3 questions will be about your practice, how to professionally practice, or about ethics, boundaries. Yeah, so laws, regulations, those types of things. So here's what we'll cover today with that in mind. So we're going to clarify what are boundaries. We're going to talk about the types of boundaries. We're going to define them. We're going to learn some vocabulary. We're going to talk about how do people get their boundaries? Where do those come from? Then we're going to define boundary crossings and boundary violations. And we're going to do a review of some key terms and vocabulary today as well. So I like ethics, morals, principles, those types of words. So, all right, let's clarify. This slide is intentionally confusing because there's all of these words that are all around this kind of this topic, this intangible topic. Like, what are the different types of boundaries? What are they? How do we manage our boundaries and other people's boundaries? And so if you look at all of these words, they attach to a particular question. It's a matching. In fact, if we were in class, I'd be handing out a worksheet and you'd be drawing these lines. So aren't you glad you don't have to do that? Let's simplify just a little. All right. So I've moved the words to each of their categories. And let's start with, how do we create and change and manage boundaries? This particular circle. So what are boundaries? They are, as you can see here, they're borders They're the edge. There's what feels good and what doesn't feel good. It's a barrier. If we were talking about a boundary line between the United States and Canada, that's the boundary. We cross the border to go to Canada. There are lines that separate. So boundaries, it's a line. It's something that we cross over. So how do we manage those boundaries? We don't know what they are, and we're going to talk about how we can recognize if we have crossed somebody's boundary. But what sets up, how do we manage them? How do they get created? Well, let's start with something simple. Time. And you're like, Jodi, how can time be a boundary? Well, the timing of your sessions is a boundary. You say 60 minutes. What's clear? Is it 60 minutes of table time? Or is it 60 minutes till your next client? If you work in a franchise model, it will be 60 minutes till your next client. If you work as an entrepreneur or as a sole proprietor, it might be 60 minutes of table time. I say table time, hands-on time. Now, what happens if a couple, husband and wife, or let's say two girlfriends, arrive for their massages? And you're working in a location where there's multiple therapists. So you have a client and her friend is going to your colleague. You guys both start on time. You finish on time. And your colleague went over. Your colleague did like a 70-minute massage. And as your colleague enters the hall, she says, oh, I just needed to, she just needed a little extra time on her low back. Well, guess what? You look like a ding dong, or not ding dong. You look bad. That might look bad, right? Because her friend, your client, is already in the waiting room. Do you see how time can be a boundary? It's not just about what you need to do. We have to be considerate of your colleagues. We also have to be considerate of the client's time. You don't know if they've got an appointment immediately after yours. Yeah. So that's an example of how time can be a boundary. Money. What are you charging? Do you charge the same to everyone? Yes. Also, we have to recognize those power differentials. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in this class. So all of these things can be examples of clarifying your boundaries. What type of clothing are you wearing? What type of space are you in? Does it make the client feel safe? Can the client relax? Self-disclosure. Don't talk about yourself. That's a boundary crossing. We'll see more on that in a little bit. Let's keep moving on, though. We've got two other categories to discuss. What are boundaries? We've talked about borders, edges, barriers, limits, lines that separate. But what are the different types of boundaries? And you may be thinking just of the physical, right? The physical boundaries, the sexual boundaries, the inappropriate touch when it comes to sexualizing the massage. But there are more. There are intellectual boundaries. There are emotional boundaries. There are energetic boundaries. We're going to talk about each of them. And then these boundaries here on this right side of the balloon, there are these boundaries could be rigid. They could be semi-permeable or permeable. We'll talk about those words in just a couple minutes. But let's look more deeply at the types of boundaries that there are. Physical, emotional, intellectual, sexual, and energetic. You're like, what the heck is intellectual boundaries? Okay. Intellectual boundaries refer to your thoughts and ideas. And if someone dismisses your thoughts, your ideas, then they have violated or they have crossed a boundary. And with our clients, we don't ask if they're Protestant or Catholic. We don't ask if they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We have respect for other people's ideas. We have respect for other people's way of thinking. Doesn't mean we agree with it, but we respect it. And in the case of the massage treatment room, we are creating safe space. And so if someone's working through how they feel about something, they may be working through it while they're on your table. Yeah. And so when it comes to discussion points, if your client starts talking about politics or starts talking about religion, change it to the weather, change it to sports. Or you can simply say, you know what? I would love to talk to you, but I really have to focus on what I'm doing. By saying nothing, that's one way we can respect their thoughts and ideas. But it's called an intellectual boundary. Energetic boundaries. Now, are we about to get woo-woo? No, this is a thing. So energetic boundaries are when we pick up the other person's energy. And many of you are empaths. You really feel it. You feel it. When someone else is hurting, you can feel it. And so we have to be careful of these energetic boundaries. So the term you might hear is, oh, I'm picking up on other people's energy. Well, if you're picking up, you need to learn how to drop it off. And we drop it or we protect ourselves from it by grounding. Yeah. Do you have a grounding ritual? Let's practice one, shall we? So, if it's safe to do so, please put your feet on the floor. And just breathe. Feel your feet on the floor. Wiggle your toes. Shuffle your feet. Create a little friction under your feet. You feel that? That's feeling the ground under your feet. And now I'd like you to imagine that your feet are actually opening up. There's a little trap door that opens up your feet, the bottoms of your feet. And anything that you are feeling in this moment that does not serve you, I'd like you to release it out through the bottoms of your feet. You can even use your hands. Release, release, release. Out, out, and out. Bad traffic, out. Burnt toast, out. Screaming kids, out. Those are feelings. They're events that make us feel something. They change our energy. Down and out. Yes. And now it's down and out. And it's down and out into the earth. We're releasing that negativity, that friction, that out of sync vibration back down into Mother Earth, where that friction and heat stirs planetary change. Mother Earth can use it. We don't need it. And now, the doors that opened on the bottom of your feet are closing. So imagine that trapdoor closing. Your feet are back to normal. And breathe. That is an example of grounding. Some people like to use the roots of trees. Imagine that there's roots coming out of their feet. But whatever imagery has worked for you or will work for you, that is what we bring into the treatment room. Yeah, we walk into the treatment room grounded. And if our client starts slinging mud, well, don't let any mud get on you. Or if it gets on you, and I say mud, but negativity, dark energy, we can be a conduit. It can go right through us, or we can just not let it stick to us. And that's an energetic boundary. Another term you might have heard is somebody staring daggers, right? Well, they're like looking at you like, what do you mean by that? Yeah, that creates an energy, doesn't it? Yeah. So just replace that with love and hugs and kittens and puppies. Yeah. And so we want to just be aware of these energetic boundaries, that we keep our own energy healthy. These boundaries can be permeable, semi-permeable, or rigid. So boundaries, for example, people who don't drink alcohol. For whatever reason, they don't drink alcohol, they just don't drink alcohol. Maybe they had a family history. Maybe they had a bad experience. We don't need to know. But that's considered a rigid boundary. Whoop, ain't happening, right? And then we have semi-permeable. And that would be, let's use, we can use alcohol, they drink at weddings. Oh, they have a drink on their birthday. There's no real issue. It doesn't have to be rigid. It's just they prefer, they don't feel good. And so they decide, I'm just not going to do that. Doesn't make me feel good. And then there's the permeable boundaries, which, again, this example isn't going to work. So permeable, let's talk about self-disclosure, shall we? In the same context. When I'm teaching class, I'm not talking about my personal life. I'm not bringing that into our classroom. Okay? And that's a boundary that I have. And if there are things in your personal life that are affecting your ability to study, hey, okay. Hopefully it's helping you to study. But we don't bring our personal stuff into the classroom. We don't bring our personal stuff into the treatment room. My clients usually don't know if I'm married or single, if I have kids, what I do for hobbies. Just doesn't matter. It's not that they don't want to know. It's that I want to create a specific space in the treatment room. Let's move over to semi-permeable. So this is, and I would say that that for you in your treatment room, and you decide on how you want these boundaries. But in the treatment room, clients may ask, are you married? Of course, it would be rude to say yes or no, to say, I'm not going to tell you, So there's some pieces of information that we can offer, some personal information, but the best is to go ahead and ask them a question. How's the pressure? On a scale of 1 to 10, how deep does this feel? Would you like more pressure? Would you like a little more, a little less, or is this about right? Keep the session focused on them. And then, as you might imagine, permeable boundaries are in and out. There's no barrier. There's no edge. So, all right. Now you've been familiarized with these three terms. Hopefully you don't see it on the envelope. Ready to dissect some questions? Yeah. Okay. This has been kind of a heavy topic, so I put a puppy on the screen. Can be kind of a heavy topic because we talk about what does professionalism look like? Yeah. All right. We just have a few questions. Bring it on. Bring it on. Let's finish strong. Showing respect for yourself and clients, communication skills, and the ability to manage boundaries, your technical competency, and your business practices are all represent examples of blank. I'm going to read the question again. Showing respect for yourself and clients, communication skills, the ability to manage boundaries, your technical competency, your business practice, all represent examples of blank. All right, let's eliminate one wrong answer. I see a bunch of answers jumping up in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you. We are not talking about professional attire. Professional attire is how you dress. Showing respect for yourself and your clients, communication skills, the ability to manage boundaries, your technical competency, and your business practices all represent, let's see what our chat says. Very good. Yes. Yes, Diana. Yes, Brienne. Good. Good, Sharita. Yep. Careful, don't. Sharita, good. Diane, yes. Excellent. Diana, yes. Maya, you got it. Marcia, good. Allegra, hi. Kadeem, nailed it. Diane, nailed it. Roxanne, good. Melissa, good. Candace, good. Bowden, yes. CJ, you got it. Patithia, yes. Greta. Azar. Let me do this. Okay. Very good. You guys all nailed it. You weren't tricked. Good. Professionalism. These are all examples of professionalism. Good. After a session, a massage therapist may have picked up some of the client's energy. This is an example of what kind of boundary? Energetic, intellectual, physical, power differences. After a session, a massage therapist may have picked up some of the client's energy. This is an example of what kind of boundary? Let's eliminate one wrong answer. It is not about the power differences or the power differential. This is kind of a gimme question. All right. Yes. Okay. Good, CJ. Yes. That's right, Kadeem. Good. Maya, you got it. Brienne, yep. Marcia, yes. Sharita, good. Diane, yes. Bowden, yes. Diane, yep. You got it. You got it. Energetic. Now, this question would not be on the MBLEx because it gave you the answer in the question, and they're very careful not to do that. Now and then you get a meatball. I call them a meatball, an easy one. You know. Next question. The study of moral principles and right contact. This can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. This is a definition. The definition, the study of moral principles, right conduct. This can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. This is the definition of what? A, principles, B, morals, C, ethics, D, values. Shall we get rid of one wrong answer? Yeah, let's do that. It's not principles, because principles is in the word, is in the question. See if you can figure it out. All right, let's take a look in the chat. Jeffrey got it. Yep. Kadeem got it. Good. Diane, yes. Jeffrey, good. Cherie got it. Yep. Good. Brianna, good. Maya, yes. Candace, yes. Marcia, yes. Yes, Diana, yes. Brianne, good. Oops, yeah. And we're ready. The best answer is ethics. That is correct. Ethics, the study of moral principles, right? The study of moral principles. Good. The practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries, even if the client requests or instructs the practitioner to behave otherwise. A, personal principles. B, fiduciary relationship. C, ethical behavior. D, boundary violations. The practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries, even if the client requests or instructs the practitioner to behave otherwise. Does this represent personal principles, fiduciary relationship, ethical behavior, boundary violations? Well, look at you guys. Jeffrey, yes. Diane, Sharita, Marcia, Brienne, yes. Ms. V, you got it. Allegra, you got it. Kadeem, yes. Good, good. Bowden, nailed it. Yup, yup. Give you about 10 more, no, 10, 5 seconds. All right, best answer. Oh, we got rid of boundary violations. We've got to eliminate one wrong answer. Fiduciary relationship. You nailed it. Yeah. So we learned about that today, right? That big long word, fiduciary relationship, simply means that you're protecting and maintaining boundary. You're protecting that client. You're keeping that client safe. If you sit on a board, you're keeping the money safe. You're keeping the organization safe. Yeah. An increase in the amount of power that exists in any position of authority is called blank. An increase in the amount of power that exists in any position of authority is called blank. A, laws. B, ethical boundaries. C, vulnerability. D, power differential. Let's eliminate one wrong answer. It's not the laws. This is an intangible thing. Tangible laws, they're written down. Intangible, an increase in the amount of power that exists in any position of authority is called, let's take a look at the chat. Oh, Jeffrey, yes, good. Roxanne, excellent. CJ, yeah. Diana, Sharita, good. Kadeem, Brianna, Brienne, Marcia, yes. Diane, yes. Candace, good. Ms. V, you got it. And Bowden, yep. And Diane, good. Yep, very good. Love it. Best answer? Power differential. Yes, that power differential, right? Again, a little bit of a gimme there, a little bit of a meatball because power was in the question. Woo-hoo! We are done for today. Yeah, great work, you guys. Great work. Now, so as we wrap up class, I want to remind you that we are on an 8-week cycle. So we have 8 classes that we go through, an 8-week cycle. We are in week 7. Next week is pathology. And then we will have a new Zoom link. So this link is good straight through next week to the end of September. Yep, to the end of September. And then we will have a new link, new Zoom link, and that is posted on the main page at Patreon. So going to wrap up class and the recording by reminding you, my name is Jodi Scholes. I am your instructor for the MBLEx review class. I'm so glad that you take the time, that you make the time to study. You are preparing to pass that MBLEx, and it's a bumpy road. Yeah, some days feel better than others. So thanks for being here today and doing the work today that needs to be done. See you soon.